What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 60 of the Hoop Venue podcast. My name is Tyler, and as always, I'm joined by my great friend Sean. After an extended leave of absence, we're back to bring you the top 10 defensive wings in the NBA. We're continuing our offseason ranking series. We've done the top 10 scorers, top 10 playmakers, top 10 offensive players, top 10 defensive guards. Now we're on to the defensive wings. We've got defensive bigs to do. And then we are off to the top 25 overall players, offense, defense, all that good stuff. You can't see Sean. He's going crazy over there. This is how long it's been. The distinction between guards and wings, I said it in the last episode, just kind of vibes. And like I now realize we did a terrible job of this. Like there are going to be players that were on the guards list who play the exact same role as players on the wings list. And then there will probably be players on the bigs list who play the same role as players on this wings list. I don't know. I kind of tried to go by position, by size. Wing is kind of a gray area because it's like a lot of them are expected to do everything, kind of. Like some wings are expected to be their team's point of attack defender. Some wings are expected to be their team's weak side rim protector. Some wings are expected to play the gaps, play the nail, clog up the lanes. Some wings are expected to do all of those things at the same time on a bad defensive team, or on a good defensive team, on a championship team. So it's very much vibe dependent. I don't know, Sean, how did you kind of like in your head determine what a wing is or like make that distinction?
I think the thing that you said is the easiest to kind of grasp onto is just the size, because the difference between, and this might be an awful comparison, the difference between Jaden McDaniels and Casey Wallace is that Jaden McDaniels is 6'10" and Casey Wallace is 6'2". Like that's really the only difference. They're both kind of asked to do similar things. Guard at the point of attack, chase around ball screens and off-ball action as much as possible, not really be too much relied. I mean, Jaden McDaniels could do some things away from the ball, but you're guarding the best player every single night. Let up, everybody else around you kind of take care of the back end. And he's just 6'10". So I think, like you said, it's vibes, and the easiest thing to kind of get a hold of is the size.
Yeah, and a lot of people love the defensive wing discussion because a lot of people value this archetype as like the championship make or break. Like you got to have the versatile defensive wings. And I think that's going to be a heavy part of the discussion today because in my opinion, this is the hardest list to make just because I don't think there's that much separation between being like number 1 and number 12 or 13. Obviously, there are tiers in my opinion, and we'll talk about ranges like we always do. But I don't think, like, I think this is the smallest disparity between the top and bottom of a list. Usually I come away with like, okay, this is my easy top 2. This is my easy top 3. These are my easy 6, and then it's like 7 through 10 interchangeable. But like, I'm looking at it right now. My 10 could be 5. My 5 could be 1. My 6 could be 2. Like, it's really just, we're going to be nitpicking, and we're going to have to, at the end of the day, I feel like it comes down to who can do the most at an elite level because wings are expected to do so much for an elite playoff defense. Like I said, you've got spoiler alert, like we're probably going to talk about Jayson Tatum, but look at the 2024 championship run from the Celtics. It's like he became the center on defense, which then unlocked Boston's defensive scheme. Like he was the one who unlocked it. But then on that same line of thinking, it relies on Horford can switch. Jaylen Brown can switch. Drew Holiday can switch. And so it's tough. We're going to be making a lot of tough distinctions and just kind of like nitpicking, splitting hairs to try and really narrow down this list. And with that said, I don't feel confident in this because I feel like every time I say this, we end up having the exact same list like we were sharing it beforehand. I really feel like we're going to have very different lists today. Like not just like 1 or 2 curveballs, but like completely different orders. Hopefully. I kind of hope so because I do think like this is the one where it's tough to make distinctions. You want to start with like some guys that we just considered for the list?
So some guys I just very, very briefly considered, and by briefly considered, I just basically threw them on the list and say, hey, I looked at you. Jeremy Sohan, Dean Wade, Isaac Okoro, Jabari Smith Jr., Jalen Wells, Dorian Finney-Smith.
I like those names. I'd also throw Ben Simmons in there.
Yep.
I'd throw Peyton Watson. I talked about this a little bit off camera. Peyton Watson's a weird one because I think on the Nuggets, he's been expected to be a point of attack guy off the bench. Like because they don't have on-ball defenders, Peyton Watson's expected to come in and be a wing stopper point of attack. Like in the playoffs, he was guarding James Harden. I don't think he's a great on-ball defender, but I think he's arguably the best rim protecting non-big in the league. Like his ability to get up and meet guys at the rim, his length and verticality, his timing, his instincts as a backline guy are just absolutely insane. So if he were on a team, for example, like if he was on the Thunder and they could always keep him on the baseline, like he could be a mega impact guy to the point where like we maybe even like talking about big type of impact, but I think he's a little bit miscast in role. Aaron Gordon's another guy I kind of briefly considered. Mikal Bridges, Kenrich Williams, PJ Washington.
Yep.
That's kind of like my light names. I've got 4 names that just missed the list for me that I really considered for 10. How many did you really consider for number 10?
3.
3? Okay. Let's start with since I've got 4, I'll knock one of my guys out. Paul George was one that I really considered for number 10. Did you consider Paul George at all?
No.
I didn't think you would, and I think it's Paul George, I'm pretty sure, played exactly 41 games. So actually, I forgot to say that. We have a cutoff of 41 games. It's like an injury omission. You had to play half the season. Herb Jones is not considered for this list because he played like 25 games or something like that. So
it might be less. It might be like 18. It was really low.
Herb Jones did not play a lot. He would be on this list. Absolutely. He's not considered because he didn't play 41 games. Paul George, I think, played exactly 41. To me, Paul George at this
41.
Point, yeah, exactly. Paul George isn't a guy like he used to be where you can put him at the point of attack or as an off-ball chaser against shooters and he's going to fly around screens and stay glued to guys. Just doesn't have the agility for that anymore. Doesn't have the burst, doesn't have the quick twitch, change of direction and stuff. But I do still think as an off-ball guy, Paul George is just so good. Like at the nail and passing lanes, his size
super
at the rim.
Active.
Yeah, I do think Paul George, in an ideal role where he's not asked to be hopefully an offensive number 1 with Maxey getting hurt and whatnot. I do think Paul George can still give you that close, not quite, but close to all defensive type of impact.
Out of any player this season that played at least 750 minutes, that their defensive role is either like point of attack, wing stopper, chaser, or a helper, Paul George is 10th in the entire league in deflections per 75 possessions. So that's a decent shot for sure. Still decently versatile enough in terms of.
And I do think like some of that gets overshadowed because Philly was such a disaster. Like
Philly was god awful,
and Paul George's offense was a disaster last year. So it's like we automatically in our heads are like, nah, Paul George just kind of fell off. But I do still think he's pretty similar to what he was defensively those last couple of years with the Clippers. Who was another guy that you really considered?
A guy that I really consider, you already touched on him a little bit. I did kind of look at Ben Simmons, like
okay,
more than just a glance. I like legit looked at Ben Simmons a little bit. Another guy that, in a weird way, compared to Paul George, you maybe wouldn't give as much credit for because the surrounding his specific situation and how people view Ben Simmons as a player in 2025 is really negative. But I do think Ben Simmons at this point still provides really good value defensively, still has more than enough athleticism defensively to, cause havoc at the rim or be a disruptor at the rim, can guard 1 through 5, can unlock some of the switching that Ty Lue and Jeff Van Gundy wanted to execute for that Clippers team last year and be a legitimate wild card counterpunch for that team, and still a legitimately really good rebounder on the defensive glass. So I don't know if he's elite necessarily at anything or great at anything like he was back in his prime, like 2018 or whatever in Philly. But I still think he's very good at just about everything defensively that he was good at in his prime. So I did really consider Ben Simmons.
That's fair. I think the problem I have with Ben Simmons is that at this point, the only way to really make him work on the court is as a small ball 5 because of the offense. And then I just don't think he's great at traditional 5 skills. Like, yes, he can offer some rim protection, but he's not a great rim protector. I don't think he has the best instincts away from the ball. I do think he unlocks switchability, though. That's a big deal with the 5. And in those small ball minutes in the playoffs, there were some good moments. But I also don't view him as someone who can really defend 1s and 2s like he could before because of the back injury limiting his fluidity. That's the only reason I gave him a glance. But I still do agree. Can pretty much do most things on defense, and definitely just kind of overlooked in that regard because you do get so much versatility and switchability from him if he's your 4 or your 5. Same line of thinking with the Clippers. Derrick Jones Jr. is another guy I considered for number 10. a lot different from Ben Simmons, but just like this big, lengthy, athletic wing who can kind of hound at the point of attack or hound wings, can get around screens, can switch onto multiple positions, legit vertical presence at the rim when he's on the back line or when he's switched away from the ball. To me, I just don't view him as a guy who really has a superpower. I don't think like he's a good screen navigator, not a great one. He's good at containing containing the ball in space, but not like a complete blow by denier. He's good at the rim, but not amazing. And I think it's like it adds up to this really, really good wing defender, but not a guy that I'd have like pushing anywhere higher than like ninth on my list.
I don't know if I mentioned Derrick Jones Jr. as one of my guys, but as you guys can see, he is. I don't know if you can see actually. He is on this list at the bottom of guys I did briefly consider.
Okay.
Derrick Jones Jr. is awesome. I'm glad he's kind of had this. I don't know if even resurgence is the word, but this kind of career arc in a positive direction over these past 2 or 3 years or so.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love Derrick Jones Jr. Man, he's just fun to watch, dude. Like, he's cutting on the back line and stuff. Like these last two playoff runs, he's been a joy to watch. Okay, I've got 11 and 12 left. Do you have your 11 and 12, or did you already name one of them?
Payne Watson, if I haven't already.
Okay, yeah, you didn't name that. Well, I talked about him a little bit. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about with Peyton Watson?
Not really. And then, go ahead.
So was he your 13 or was he your 12?
12.
Okay, so there's one guy that I think I'm going to have that you didn't consider. My 12 is Jaylen Brown. Okay. I'm assuming you considered him. I think 2024 championship Jaylen Brown would probably be my number 8. My only reason for having him down is I just think the defensive consistency this season, and maybe it's like championship lag, or maybe it's Boston dealing with more injuries and stuff. I just don't think Jaylen Brown had the same type of defensive season or consistency across the board. But that's not to say when Jaylen Brown's on the court in a playoff setting, you don't still get this monster switch defender, this huge point of attack guy. He can guard wings better than most players in the league. Very lengthy, very athletic. Not the greatest off-ball defender, tends to lose cutters and have breakdowns, and I think that's literally the only thing keeping him from being like top 5. But will get up and make plays at the rim. Will get in passing lanes at times. Will pick pockets at the point of attack. Just really unlocks versatility. Like what I talked about with Boston and moving Tatum to the 5 and having a switchable scheme. Jaylen Brown was just as integral to making that work in the championship run. So I did consider him at number 12.
Who's your 11?
My 11, I really wanted to talk about this guy because I was so close to having him on my list. Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes is my number 11. Scotty Barnes' offense makes me scratch my head sometimes. Like I don't really know what to make of it. But I'm so confident that he's just a monster defender. Like I think if Scotty Barnes gets into a playoff setting, there aren't many players in the league that like are just easier to fit into any scheme. Scotty Barnes with he's got a 7'3" wingspan, dude. He's got a 7'3" wingspan, but he's like agile like a smaller wing, so you can have him hound the ball as like a full court press guy. He's not going to navigate screens, but he can switch onto all 5 positions. He's a monster rim protector for his position. He's got ridiculous hands. He picks up a ton of deflections and steals. The only thing, again, similar to what I talked about with Derrick Jones Jr., I just don't think Scotty Barnes has a superpower. I think he's legitimately really good at everything, not great at anything.
Sounds like Scotty Barnes on offense. I'm confused if you're talking about Scotty Barnes. I'm confused if you're talking about Scotty Barnes, the offensive player or the defender. We're getting used to the new setup. Normally my mic doesn't pick up calls from my computer, but I feel like I should have
definitely like thrown a disclaimer at the beginning of the episode that Sean moved into a new home and is just like getting used to the new setup. So if anything's different, that is the reason. But what were you saying about Scotty? What was your what
I was just making a joke at how everything you just said applies to Scotty Barnes as an offensive player.
Fair. Yeah, totally fair. But yeah, that's kind of I do think Scotty, like I could see a world where if he's on a great defensive team, like if he was on Boston these last couple of years, what I feel like he'd look like a monster defender on all of the impact metrics, like his ability to like play a small ball 5 role and protect the rim, but then also guard big wings and powerful creators. He kind of just has all the tools. And I feel like there's a chance Scotty Barnes is like a perennial all defensive guy soon. How do you feel about Scotty? Because you didn't consider him at all, huh?
So I think I just fell prisoner of my overall feelings of Scotty as a player. And I think you might have saw Raptor fans. I apologize. You might have saw a little eye roll out of me when
I saw it.
all right. But no, like objectively, like Scotty is awesome. I think the biggest thing is, and you already touched on some of it, the fact that he can legitimately when you're not an elite screen navigator, and I still think he's perfectly fine. He's just not a great screen navigator. The fact that he can guard 1 through 5 and be able to hold his own, even if it's a mismatch for the offensive team, you still feel more than fine with Scotty in that situation because he can legitimately switch out or switch down, whatever you want to call it, and guard all 5 positions pretty well. I think just the fact that he can do that, on top of the fact that he is an elite defensive rebounder, with the fact that he is, like you said, a great rim protector or a great interior defender in general for his size, can kind of do some of the big stuff pretty well as well, even for again, somebody his size. He's what, like you said, he's 6'7", sure, but or 6'8", but with the 7'2", 7'3" wingspan, so it just allows him to do so much.
And it's a big 7'3" wingspan. Like when you see him, you see it. It's like Kawhi. It's like that guy's got long freaking arms. It's yeah, and also I want to say I've been watching a lot of Colin Murray Boyle's film, and Barnes and
CMB's fun.
Dude, CMB and Scotty as a defensive duo is going to be freaking awesome. I can't wait to watch the Raptors. Who was your 11?
I kind of just went Tatum, honestly. And it was really more so just the versatility and also just defensive rebounding as well, honestly.
So I've got Tatum on my list. I've got Tatum. Okay, before we do that, I'll wait on Tatum because he's not like I've got him pretty high up. So you've got Tatum 11th. You've got just to recap what I've got so far. I kind of just ordered my 11 through 14. I've got 11 Scotty, 12 Jaylen Brown, 13 Derrick Jones Jr., and 14 Paul George. Who were your guys again? Just so we got the names out of the way. Not the whole list, but just like the ones that you heavily considered.
Pan Watson, Ben Simmons, Jayson Tatum. I just went 11 through 13. If you want to add a 14, there's a couple other guys as well.
Interesting. So is there anyone we've talked about that you have on your top 10?
I don't think you mentioned my 10. Maybe you did.
So I think I know who it is, but go ahead and drop your 10. I feel like I might know who it is.
My 10 is Tari Eason.
My 10 is also Tari Eason.
Oh, okay.
Okay, there we go. Of course, we start off. I say we're gonna have different lists, and we're
gonna have completely different lists.
Start off with the thing we're 10. All right, talk to me about Tari Eason.
Well, now I'm curious who you have Tatum over, considering. Okay. All right. We'll get to them when we get there. But Tari Eason, if you wanted, and I don't want to like start off on a negative note, but if you did want to like poke at Tari Eason, I think the biggest thing is honestly just surrounding situation. Like he is a beneficiary of being in a system defensively that's one coached by an elite coach and one of the 5 or so best defensive coaches in basketball, Ime Udoka. He gets to play with arguably the best wing defender in the league in Amin Thompson. And you have the other surrounding pieces too. Dillon Brooks coming in, being the vet. And I think Dillon Brooks has taken a step back to what he was 2021, 22 as a wing defender. But Dillon Brooks is still more than capable to hold his own. You have Jabari Smith Jr., who's... Go ahead.
I need to pause you.
Okay.
I was wondering who it was I didn't consider because we didn't have the same top 10. And Dillon Brooks never crossed my mind a single time. I just forgot he existed. And now I need to include Dillon Brooks on my list. Oh, this is bad. For some reason, my mind like put Dillon Brooks as a guard, but then I didn't have him on the guards list, even though he's obviously a wing. Okay. Tari Eason is going to be my 11. I'm going to find a spot for Dillon Brooks. Keep going. Okay, this is bad. I'm making the list as we go. This is terrible podcasting. I totally forgot Dillon Brooks existed.
Tatum, Brooks, Watson, Simmons. There you go. I have Brooks outside.
Okay, you did? I'm going to have Brooks in my top 10. I know that for sure. I'm very high on Dillon Brooks. But keep going.
Well, okay, even you saying that kind of makes the argument for me to continue what I was saying and how you can poke at just the surrounding system. But I think Tari Eason's just legitimately awesome at everything, bro. He's not this elite rim protector or interior defender for his position, nor does he really ever have to be either because of all the surrounding pieces. I think that's where I think him and like Jabari, for example, kind of complement each other well. Because Jabari, I think, is a really good backline defender. Or then you have a man who can kind of wreak havoc. And Sengun is, as we've talked about, taking steps as a defensive player. But I think Tari just does such a good job at the point of attack. He has done a really, really good job, particularly this season, as a defensive rebounder. He's always been a really, really good defensive rebounder. Has over 3.5 deflections per 75 possessions as well.
Yeah.
Good screen navigator. Like, I just think Tari Eason's really, really good at everything. And honestly, the reason why I'm probably pulling him back a little bit is because he doesn't have to do as much, even compared to players on his own team, and especially compared to some of the other guys that are on this list.
Yeah, that's fair. I also think with Eason, like, last 2 seasons, players shoot 5.5% worse at the rim with him contesting, and he's contesting 4.5 of those shots per 36 minutes. So, like, legit active behind the play, will get up and make plays at the rim. But again, like, the reason he's able to do that is because Houston has 2 of the best point of attack guys in the league, and you can get Eason in that role playing behind the play. Him and Jabari Smith are, like, a really good rim protecting wing duo. I think Tari Eason's superpower is his motor. This guy checks into the game, motor. And it's just insane. Like, he's everywhere. The guy does not take a single, not even just like doesn't take plays off, doesn't take movements off. Every movement is just like high motored. I think Eason, I'm gonna have Eason as my 11th. Like I said, I have Brooks as my 10, and I'll just do like the quick Brooks versus Eason thing. I think Eason, you get more. I don't think Brooks has much of an off ball value. I think he's like good digging at the nail. He will like stunt at drives and turn away drives, but he's not like super active with his hands, not super lengthy, not a presence at the rim. So I do think Dillon Brooks like is less impactful away from the ball. I just think Dillon Brooks is such an elite on ball defender. The ball pressure, the physicality to switch up, the technique against post ups and shoulder bumps. If you have this guy in isolation, you can't shake him, basically. And he fouls a lot, but it doesn't get called, so it's actually a good thing. And I just think Dillon Brooks is on a short list of like the 3 or 4 best man defenders in the sport. So regardless of what he's doing away from the ball, I think any high-level defense can just start in a good place by being like, look, Dillon Brooks, you're going to go out there and guard the other team's best wing. So I'm going to have Brooks as my 10. I'm going to have Brooks as my 10, Eason as my 11.
Okay.
Which means we don't have, you have a guy in your top 9 that I don't have at all. So this is interesting.
Who's your 9?
Who's your number 9?
I asked you first.
Oh, yeah, you did ask me first. My number 9 plays a similar role to Dillon Brooks. I just think he does more things. My number 9 is Aaron Nesmith.
Okay.
Same thing. He's a primary point of attack kind of guy. He's going to hound you with full court pressure. We saw that in the playoffs with Indy with their 2-headed backcourt. I mean, Nesmith isn't backcourt, but it was a backcourt defense of Nesmith and Nembhard, just full court pressure. Nesmith takes the bigger, more physical wing. Andrew Nembhard takes the guard. I think Nesmith sometimes struggles with physicality. Like, I think that's why he really struggled with J-Dub in the finals. In a way that Dillon Brooks wouldn't have struggled with the physicality, with like shoulder bumps to the chest and whatnot. I think Nesmith, again, is a guy with a superpower of a motor, just an insane motor. But across the board, man, he can fly around screens. He can switch onto multiple positions. He's got elite footwork, great ball pressure. He can legitimately get up and protect the rim. He's a great instincts behind the play for blowing up action. I really think one of the only things holding him back is that pretty foul prone. Like, he tends to foul a lot. He spent a lot of the playoffs in foul trouble. And that's like the one thing I guess you can kind of knock him for, but Nesmith is just he's a primary point of attack defender who can defend any type of kind of lead creator, but then also if you get him out of the action, still going to have value away from the ball.
All right, so I'm actually going to hold off on Aaron Nesmith because I do not have Aaron Nesmith at 9. I do have him on my list. This might be low, and this going back to some of the stuff you were saying earlier about, you know, where the players are at on our rankings and feeling awful about it. I could probably see this guy as high as 5. on my list. For
Okay.
me, number 9 is Jimmy Butler. Um, I I'm not. I hate that sometimes. Sometimes I think the media just coins the "he's smart" thing or he communicates thing too much. But legitimately, Jimmy Butler is just one of the smartest and over communicative. I don't even know if I'm like speaking English at this point. Just players defensively in the league. You combine that with Draymond. I don't think it's a coincidence why Golden State's defense was so elite post Jimmy Butler trade. His just basketball awareness and knowledge defensively, he's almost always in the right positioning away from the ball. Still perfectly capable. Actually, I would still argue really, really good on the ball in isolation situations. And if he does get switched again, his technique and his awareness of where the ball or where the possession's at that given moment is elite and probably best of anybody on this list. Honestly, I think I'm just knocking him simply because I think at this current stage of his career, he does have to do maybe as many things as some of these other guys do. But in terms of overall impact on a team's defense, because of his IQ, because of his communication ability, because of his ability to still be good on the ball when needed, I think you have to have Jimmy Butler inside your top 10.
I agree. Jimmy's my number 8, so this is actually like easy discussion.
Aaron Nesmith's my number 8.
Okay, great. Yeah, there we go. Here we go with this. No, but in all seriousness, with Jimmy Butler, I think like usually you can't quantify like something like IQ or smarts, but I do think my selling point with Jimmy Butler in terms of if you were more statistically inclined and you were like, what can I point to talk about how Jimmy Butler's a genius defender? Jimmy Butler is on a short list of the most devastating passing lane defenders we have ever seen, right? Like when you
Yeah.
see this guy in the playoffs, no pass is safe. It doesn't matter if it's top of the key to the corner, top of the key to the wing, hitting the roller. If Jimmy Butler is within 15 feet of a pass, there's a chance he's going to jump the lane and steal it. And he does that while having a neutral wingspan or like a +1 wingspan. So
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler has the type of like devastating in the gaps, passing lanes, blow up every action type of impact as somebody who it doesn't have like super crazy physical tools. Like he's quick, he's like got like the cat-like quickness, but it's all instincts. He's just always in the right spot at the right time. He's someone who can legitimately anchor a defense behind the play in the playoffs. So when you put him and Draymond together, it didn't matter what the other 3 players were. The defense was going to be elite. We saw that in the regular season. We saw that in the playoffs. And I'm pretty sure Golden State had the number 1 defense in the league after the trade. I could be wrong,
I
but it was
think
like
so.
number 1 or number 2. Yeah, Jimmy's crazy. I the only reason I don't have him higher and I can't really see him much higher than like 6th is because I do think Jimmy is at this point pretty easily the worst on-ball defender on this list. He's just like I don't think Tatum can be your primary point of attack guy, but I think Jimmy's even worse in that role. And I think Jimmy is like everyone in my top 6. Tatum's my 7, by the way, spoiler. Everyone in my top 6, I think, can be a primary point of attack defender, but can also do things away from the ball. Whereas with Jimmy and Tatum, I think they do a lot to unlock a team's versatility, unlock teams as in an off-ball role, but can't be your primary point of attack defender. And I do think like if we saw Jimmy in a situation like Minnesota, for example, where they needed him to navigate screens and hound guys with ball pressure, I just don't think he can do that. I don't think he's quick enough at this point. I don't think he's like got the it's not a motor thing, it's a condition. It's like an age thing. Like, right, you just don't want how old is he? 35? You don't want
35.
a 35-year-old full court pressing guys and fighting around screens. It's just too much wear and tear, especially with the role he has to play on offense. So that's my only hang back with Jimmy. And also the fact that because he's so valuable away from the ball, but then also isn't much of a vertical presence at the rim, there's like a ceiling you kind of get with him. You know what I mean? Like if Jimmy was a monster rim protector, we'd just be talking about him as just like this defensive player of the year guy. But because he's a primary off-ball defender who isn't much of a vertical presence at the rim, it's like he's kind of stuck in this middle ground of like maybe a top 5 defensive wing, gotta be in the top 10, but not reaching the heights of some of these other guys.
And honestly, I don't even feel the need to talk too much about Aaron Nesmith. I think you hit all the necessary points that need to be hit on. Super good on the ball, super pesty, has good technique, super agile, able to flip his hips really quickly in full court, which allows him to keep up with these active on ball guards or wings. And again, I think one of the biggest weaknesses is just the strength in the foul trouble. So I agree with basically everything you said. Really good screen navigator. That's one of the things I love the most about him and Nembhard is their screen navigation ability and the technique and how they do that. So I'm proud. I'm proud of myself because I am really confident you do not have number 7. And I don't think you consider number 7 based off all the names you mentioned.
I don't think I did either. Before you get to that, because I think I know who it is. Before you get to that, I want to do my little Tatum thing because I have Tatum 7th.
Okay.
I kind of already talked about the idea of it. It's like, can't be your primary point of attack guy, but is still just a really good on-ball defender that can defend almost any position. Great rebounder, does offer that secondary rim protection. One of the best nail defenders in the league, just always in the right spot at the right time. Super high motor in the playoffs. My only question with Tatum is like, how much of his value is situational and what would it look like on a team where he's like the clear guy? Because I do think in these last couple of years, he's been the best defender on Boston, but like, how clear is it, right? Like Jaylen Brown's right there, Drew Holiday's right there, Porzingis is right there, Horford's right there, Derrick White's right there. And I do think to some extent, like what Tatum's superpower is the versatility, is the switchability, is the fact that he can start in any position. And he's kind of like a defensive chess piece. But like, would he be a chess piece like that on Minnesota? Would he be a chess piece like that on even Houston? Would he be a chess piece like that on Detroit? Like looking at some of these other names we're going to talk about. I don't know. And I just have more questions with Tatum when it comes to what his skill set would look like on a worse defensive team. But to that same, like in that same line of thinking, Tatum having that superpower enhances an elite defense like Boston at a level that not many guys can reach, right? Like Boston's hitting these defensive heights in the playoffs. Even these most recent playoffs where they kind of flamed out, they were a top playoff defense. The championship run, they looked impenetrable, even by Dallas. Like Luka and Kyrie couldn't really create any easy shots against this defense, in large part because of the scheme that was unlocked by Tatum. And so I just think that matters a lot. Like on a championship level team, there aren't many guys I'd rather have than Tatum as a sort of defensive pawn to just do whatever you want with.
Yeah. No, Tatum makes sense having him on the list. Again, I think of what I said, 11. I don't know. I forget my list at this point.
Yeah, you had him 11. I think I know who your 7 is. Can I guess who it is? And if I'm completely off, just tell me. I think it might be Franz Wagner.
It is not Franz Wagner.
Okay, because I know a lot of people are very high on Franz defensively. I think he's really good. I probably should have named him as like one of my just quick guys. But I know a lot of people are just really high on Franz defensively, so I thought you might have went that direction. Can I get a hint? I don't want you to just like I want to figure out who this is because I named like 25 guys. Who is
you did? Western Conference wing, played 76 games last season. Not necessarily. He's still on his. Pretty sure he's still on his rookie deal. When he came out of college, wasn't necessarily known as a really, really good defender, and kind of had to make a career change pretty quickly. Or you know what? No, let me change that last part. His career has kind of not went the way you thought it would go. It's kind of flipped after his rookie year.
I have no idea who this is. Just say it.
This is Keegan Murray. I think Keegan Murray is
that's
awesome
such a good
defensively.
Shout. That is such a good shout. Wow. Talk to me about Keegan.
I hate that I say he's awesome for basically everybody. But Keegan's awesome because, one, he's guarding the best player every single night, whether it's Shea, whether it's Donovan Mitchell, whether it's Giannis. And he has the perfect frame to be able to do it. He's 6'8", 225 with a 6'11 wingspan, legitimately guards 1 through 4, has spent at least 17% of his time guarding 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s, and even spent just barely under 12% of his minutes this season guarding 5s. Pretty good. I don't know if he's a great defensive rebounder, but he's definitely pretty good for his position.
And he took a leap this year. This year, he was a really good defensive rebounder.
Compared to years past, I think the biggest knock on Keegan Murray, specifically to a guy, I mean, I'm only comparing him. This is probably unfair because it's what Jimmy Butler's like insane at. I don't know how active or how much you're ever going to really get from Keegan Murray in terms of wrecking havoc in the passing lanes or being active at the nail and causing aggressive pickups or forcing turnovers out of that spot. But navigates ball screens really, really well. Legit in one-on-one isolation, having to contain drives. and solid to damn near good as a backline rim protector as well. I think he's kind of turned into the guy and can even make a better case of it. Hopefully this season, if we can improve some of just the activity away from the ball in terms of, in the passing lanes and not necessarily on the back line. Like I said, I think he's fine back there. But in terms of being active at the nail and causing havoc there, I mean, is he not somebody that every single championship contender would want out of their wing? And honestly, I think he would have better PR if, and this is why I said the career shift, he has just completely fallen off the face of the earth as a shooter compared to his rookie season, and definitely compared to what we thought he was going to be coming out of Iowa, where past 2 seasons he's just about at 35% from three, where his rookie year he was at 41% from three. And Sacramento just making tonal shifts organizationally, which is, again, Sacramento sucks, but Keegan Murray is awesome, and every single team in the league would want to have him.
That's such a good shout. I honestly just kind of forgot about him. Another guy I just blanked on, like Dylan Brooks. I think you said everything that needed to be said about Keegan. I think one other point I'd like to add, probably has the biggest defensive load of anyone we're going to talk about on that Sacramento team. Like, you've got DeRozan, Levine, Sabonis, and you're expected to basically be the best rim protector, best on-ball defender, most switchable defender. Like, you're expected to be the best defender in every single category. And then the Sacramento Kings, like, they weren't a good defense, but they weren't like a bottom of the barrel defense.
And it's arguably because of him. Like, if you look at their numbers with him on the floor versus off the floor, in terms of like opponent effective field goal percentage or some of the other like analytics with Keegan on the floor, like, it's like kind of ridiculous. For example, really quickly, with Keegan Murray off the floor, teams in terms of their 2-point field goal percentage, teams shoot 58% from two with Keegan Murray off the floor. With Keegan Murray on the floor, they shoot 52.6% with Keegan Murray on the floor defensively. Like, and that's just one little example. But I mean, I think hopefully our effective field goal percentage, it goes from 57.6 to 54.7 with him on the floor. He just provides legitimate impact for that Kings defense to help elevate it from being god awful. You have Keon Ellis, who also kind of helps this as well, but to help elevate this from god awful to, all right, look, we're not great, but at least we're, respectable or halfway decent. Right. We're not like a turnstile defensively. And Keegan, his versatility helps unlock that.
So what were the 2-point percentage numbers again? It was like 52.2 versus 55. Is that what it was?
52.6 to 58.3.
Okay, yeah, that's insane. That's insane. Also, ridiculous. I'd like to point out, shooting luck isn't in his favor from three. Like, the Kings gave up a higher 3-point percentage when Keegan was on the floor versus off. And if you're unfamiliar with like analytical research, that's usually luck dependent. Like, there's not much to say about like an individual defender's impact on the opponent's 3-point percentage. It's usually just like whether they made or missed a shot. And the defensive rating still swings from 115.9 with Keegan on to 119.3 with him off. I do really quickly want to see how that looks in relation with Keon Ellis. This is excluding garbage time, by the way. Excluded garbage time. Yeah, listen to this, man. With Murray and Ellis on the floor together, they had a 113.6 defensive rating. I believe the league average was like 114.5 or 115. So like, we're talking about an above average defense. When Keon Ellis was on the floor without Keegan Murray, that dropped almost 6 points to 119.2. And when neither of them were on the court, it was 119.5. So it does kind of feel like Keegan's like holding this defense together on a string. That's a really good shout. I think if I were to really like look into it, I'd probably end up with him as like one of my first guys off, kind of in that Tari Eason group with like 11, 12. Also, one more stat I wanted to throw at you, because I looked this up while you were talking about him. Last 2 seasons, players are shooting 9% worse at the rim with Keegan Murray contesting. Absolutely crazy. I think what you said, though, about like not being as active in lanes, not really being a defensive playmaker, kind of holds him back. But Keegan's an awesome defender, and I do think if he was in a better defensive situation, we'd probably talk about him a lot more.
Honestly, the reason why I don't have him higher on the list, just not much of a playmaker.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair too. Like, I think, I think, and I'll speak for myself. like I said, my top 6 is all guys that can be your primary point of attack. But like if you already had a primary point of attack, they can still give you all defensive type of value in a different role. Would you agree with that? Because it seems to me like we have the top 6.
I think we have the same top 6.
So let me go ahead and share before we move on to that. I do want to run through our quick 7 through 10. I've got 10 Dillon Brooks, 9 Aaron Nesmith, 8 Jimmy Butler, and 7 Jayson Tatum.
I have 10 Tari Eason, 9 Jimmy Butler, 8 Aaron Nesmith, and 7 Keegan Murray.
I love the Keegan Murray shout, man. I still can't get behind the Deuce McBride shout from the guards list, but Keegan Murray.
Redemption.
I will get on board with Keegan Murray. Okay, I'll move on to my number 6. My number 6 is Jaden McDaniels.
Stop copying.
Is that your number 6?
That's my number 6.
It is so simple to me. I think Jaden McDaniels is a monster point of attack defender. I think his length, his agility, his ability to get skinny around screens. Not many guys in the league better at disrupting guards. If you get him off the ball, he's on a short list of the best rim protecting wings in the league. Like huge length, huge vertical presence, great instincts, great timing. My only hangback is that the top 5 guys are just all way better at dealing with strength. Dealing with bully creators. Like when Jaden McDaniels gets into these deep playoff matchups against a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's going to use the shoulder, a Luka Doncic, who's going to get him on his hip. Jaden McDaniels just simply is not going to be able to hold up with the physicality. He's too skinny, he's too lengthy, and that's the drawback of being 6'10 or 6'11 and moving with that level of fluidity. And so I do think like you get a little bit less versatility with Jaden McDaniels. In terms of switchability, in terms of the ability to like take on the role of a 5 and defend a big and rebound, but then also get a little bit of less resistance at the point of attack against the very best of the best. I think on a game-to-game basis, you could argue Jaden McDaniels is the best point of attack defender in the league, but when it comes to a conference finals or a final series or like deep in the playoffs when you're going to run into a Luka Doncic or a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, or I think you'd even run into that issue if you were to face Jalen Brunson in a final series or something. I do think, or a Cade even. I do think Jaden McDaniels struggles with physicality more than any of my top 5.
I think Jaden McDaniels is probably the truest point of attack player of anybody we've mentioned.
Yeah.
Like in terms of your job is to guard, the 1s or the 2s or whatever, and that's about it. and not taking away from the rim protection and the size that he does provide defensively. But because of, like you said, the lack of strength that he does have, which again we've seen it in series, ironically back-to-back conference final series against Shai and against Luka. These bigger creators that can throw around their shoulder at him or put him in jail. Okay, cool, but and that we've seen how because of he is so truly just a point of attack defender, how it kind of neutralizes what he provides for you defensively. Where in any other series, he's wrecking havoc and causing nightmares for the opposing team's best guard or best on-ball player. I think this year he was noticeably better with Luka, but how much of that is the Lakers and to just Luka himself being a little bit less in shape, and we'll just leave it at that. But Jaden's awesome, like you said, on a night-to-night basis is arguably the best point of attack defender in the league. Just honestly, not too much you can really do outside of that because of his limitations athletically. But not even athletically. I mean, I guess.
I know at least like 3 people listening are like, well, it's Shai and Luka. What do you expect? Nobody can stop them. I agree.
You're gonna have to go through Shai and Luka to get to the finals. So like,
but the point being though, like, not only did these guys get their games off against Jaden McDaniels, like Shai's best series in the playoffs was very easily that Minnesota series. He averaged like 32 and 8 on just ridiculous efficiency. And then Luka, too, in the 2024 run, was just significantly
best series against
Minnesota than any other team. Like against Lou Dort, he struggled with the physicality a little bit. In the finals, he struggled with the physicality of Jaylen Brown and even Tatum at times. And Horford did really good on switches.
We have Al Horford nightmares as Laker fans.
Al Horford is a demon. Al Horford's an absolute dog. Can't wait for the Bigs list to get Al Horford in my top 5. But like. And against Jaden McDaniel, and some of that is also the Rudy Gobert drop coverage. Yes, that's part of it. But for the most part, it is Jaden McDaniels just not really being able to push these guys off their spot. And then they, like, even with Shai, like, he struggled more with Nembhard the next round, a lot more with Nembhard and his physicality and his ability to pull the chair and absorb those bumps and stuff. And Jaden McDaniels is also another guy who tends to get into foul trouble a little bit because he's fouled out a lot of playoff games, maybe more than anyone on this list. So I do think that's another point because he has to kind of overcompensate for the lack of strength. But moving into the top 5, I think these guys are all, you can be a primary point of attack. You're strong enough to defend pretty much any position. You can protect the rim. You can do literally everything. These are like the holy grail of wing defenders. And I think all of them could be number 1. I think you can make an argument for all of them as number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to toss it back to you so I don't have to do it. Who did you land on at number 5?
This sucks. Okay, I'm just gonna go off of what my actual list says, and if I like somehow talk myself out of it, then so be it. On my list, I have OG Anunoby at 5.
Okay.
And not to spoil who I have it for, I do value what the person directly above OG, for me at least, does for the overall team defensively and how elite he is at other aspects. I don't want to make it seem like OG's like not elite elsewhere defensively. Like you said, I think OG or really any of these guys have a legitimate argument to be number 1. I mean, OG, man, just first off, freak athlete defensively. Like his physical profile in terms of his lateral quickness, his ability to, be a guy that can just legitimately stop every single drive at a standstill and just really wreck an offensive game plan. I'm kind of curious to see like how his offensive game maybe affects the defensive side. I do feel like he's taken an offensive leap over the past couple of years, which I don't think necessarily has impacted his impact defensively. But if there was going to be, somehow an even further continuation on his offensive game, does that change some of what he provides for you defensively? I think one of the bigger drawbacks is especially if I'm comparing apples to apples and really nitpicking comparing him to my number 4 again in particular, not the rebounder that some of the other guys on this list are. And I think because you lose significant rebounding help, like for example, if you were to rank these 5 guys, assuming we have the same 5 guys here, okay, he would be the worst. Fourth best rim protector. We're simply looking at rim defensive field goal percentage versus expected. He'd be 4th. He would be dead last in defensive rebounds per 75 possessions, and he would be in a cluster with 2 other guys for like 3rd in deflections per 75. But elite in isolation, stopping drives, elite still guarding, navigating ball screens and screen navigation. OG's awesome. It's just really nitpicking, and I just end up having him 5th.
So I'll be completely honest with you. My original list, I penciled in OG as number 1 and then worked from there.
Okay.
Because I've always been very high on OG, and I kind of don't know what to do with him because he's another guy that I feel like has just insane defensive responsibility that goes unnoticed because of the fact that he's the only guy on this list that I think is expected to actually anchor a defense. And what I mean by that isn't like just be the first line of defense or like be the best defender on the team. I mean like OG is expected to play behind like Cat at the level of screens and legitimately like anchor a defense from the back line. And it's like he has to be active with he's got insane length, he's got really good hands. Somewhat of a vertical presence at the rim. I think the rim protection analytics fail to capture like how much he does to blow up plays from ever happening, like tagging a roller and recovering and things like that. I do think he has just more rim deterrence than any player on this list. And I also think he unlocks more versatility than anyone on this list. Like we talked about it with Tatum being able to switch up and switch down. OG is just like that, except he also brings more, like he's a better man defender, better screen navigator, probably a little bit better behind the play. So I do think OG's kind of just like supercharged Tatum. I don't know what to make of his on-ball defense at this point, though, because I don't know about the lateral quickness. I don't think he's what he was a few years ago. As an on-ball defender, I don't think OG is the type of guy that you can, for an entire playoff series, be like, I want you to go chase around Steph Curry. or I want you to go guard this volume pick and roll ball handler. Like, there's a
Who
reason.
would guard Steph, for example, if you're in a hypothetical Knicks Warrior series?
Who would guard Steph?
Yeah.
McHale. Easily McHale.
Okay. That's what I thought.
I mean, unless Deuce and McHale would split it, probably.
Deuce nod.
Deuce nod. Jordan Clarkson now. But I think OG, or even just like, there's a reason OG wasn't guarding Tyrese Halliburton. Some of it is the responsibility to play behind the play, but some of it is also like, that's just not his ideal role. I do think I see that. I see the defense. I think OG's a tough player to evaluate. Like I said, I had him at 1 originally. I got him at 4 now. I bumped him down to 4. I do still really value the defensive versatility he brings to the table, and the fact that I feel like he's one of the few guys who can legitimately anchor a defensive unit. But I do think OG has slipped past his defensive peak. Like 2021 specifically, like when he got on my radar was when he guarded Jokic. Like he was the full-time defender on Jokic, and this was before teams were putting wings on Jokic. Like he was just guarding Jokic as the 5. And I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. But then the next game, he was guarding some guard and flying around screens. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Then I saw he was averaging like 2.5 steals. And I was like, oh, okay, this guy's kind of a freak. I do think OG's an insane defensive talent. I could see him at number 1. Ultimately, I landed on him at 4.
Yeah, like I said, I think any of these guys have an argument for 1.
My number 5 was J-Dub.
Okay, J-Dub was my number 4.
Okay, yeah. So J-Dub's another guy who unlocks insane versatility. He's another tough one to evaluate because of the responsibility on the team, right?
Yep.
You get like he doesn't have to be the Lou Dort, but he probably can be. Like he can navigate screens. He can hound at the point of attack. He's another guy, 6'5" with a 7'2" wingspan, big vertical presence at the rim. We saw him actually play the 5. Like we saw that. It's not a speculation.
Chet and iHeart were hurt.
Right. He played the 5. He did it well. He can switch across the board.
Good
insane
rebounder.
hands, insane instincts, big time defensive playmaker. The only thing to me that holds him out of the top 3, and it sucks to say because J-Dub does so many things so well, I think the top 3 all have an argument to be the best point of attack defender in the league, and I don't see that with J-Dub. Like I think he's
top
a great,
of responsibility,
right? Like, well, just in terms of like the skill set, like I think he's a great point of attack defender. I don't think, like, I think the top 3 guys are all quicker laterally, and I think they all are just much better at making themselves skinny around screens.
Yeah.
And, like, chasing off-ball shooters, like, specifically chasing off-ball shooters. Like, if you need these guys to fly around screens and stick with the fastest players in the league, I think they can do it. I don't know if J-Dub can do that. He's much better against wings and bigger, like, powerful creators because of his strength and length.
Yeah. No. So J-Dub at 4 for me was really, again, more so just, and you let off with it, but honestly for me it was just as simple as he doesn't have to do as much because of surrounding situation. The bigs he has to play with. Now, again, his isn't like hypothetical. Like, we know he can switch out and guard 1 through 5 because we saw it. But he's not the night in, night out, screen navigator or point of attack defender or whatever. They can kind of just deploy him in any which way they want to. Super disruptive away from the ball or at the rim as a backline guy. So if you do pull a chance of the action, hey, great job. Now you have this, 7'2" wingspan out of a 6'5" wing, just be able to legitimately deter shots and, help protect the rim at a really high level for a wing. I just think that these other 3 guys that if I were to start a defense, I would probably just prefer one of these other 3 guys over J-Dub.
That's fair.
As like my building block.
I think
I would just go one of the other 3.
I agree with that. I think it starts with like all 3 of those guys. Like Jaylen, the selling point with J-Dub would be the role versatility, right? Like I do think you can make an argument that like J-Dub kind of unlocks versatility in a way that OG does, but also to another extent. And then you could just really be like J-Dub as my building block. And then I do think J-Dub is just so easy to build a defense around, in terms of the types of players. Because no matter what it is, like you can get a big, you can get a hedge defender, you can do a switching scheme, you can put him at the point of attack probably. We really haven't had to see it, but I do think like I said, for me it just comes down to the responsibility as a primary point of attack defender. Like if they were in a play, and again, going back to just like the best of the best, if you were in a series against the Timberwolves and it's like you need to go navigate 40 pick and rolls with Anthony Edwards, not let him get it to a pull up three, but also not let him get to the rim. I think the other three guys are just going to be much better getting around screens, cutting off those angles, and staying attached, and just playing that role, which I do think is probably the most important role for a defensive wing. Like, as important as we talk about the off-ball defense and the rim protection and stuff, at the end of the day, most of these guys are going to be used as wing stoppers or point of attack defenders, on a championship level team, that is. So let's go ahead and, before we get to the top three, quickly do a little rehashing of the list. I've got 10 Dillon Brooks, 9 Aaron Nesmith, 8 Jimmy Butler, 7 Jayson Tatum, 6 Jaden McDaniels, 5 Jalen Williams, and 4 OG Anunoby.
So I have 10 Tari Eason, 9 Jimmy Butler, 8 Aaron Nesmith, 7 Keegan Murray, 6 Jaden McDaniels, 5 OG Anunoby, and 4 Jalen Williams.
There we go. All right, top three time. I think these guys, I really...
there's no separation.
There's no separation at all. And I think like people will tell you there is a lot of separation, but when you really look at the tape and look at what they do and then look at the numbers and the impact on the team, we're talking about three defenders who are literally the exact same class. And it's just, what do you prefer? I don't even know what I prefer. I kind of just ordered them, and I guess we'll talk this out and maybe we'll flip them around.
I think we just reveal 3, 2, 1. I'm not going to lie.
You wanted to do them all?
I think we just reveal 3, 2, 1 and then talk.
Okay, I went 3 Tumani Kamara, 2 Asar Thompson, 1 Amen Thompson.
Okay, that's interesting. I went 3 Asar Thompson, 2 Amen Thompson, 1 Tumani Kamara.
Tumani Kamara. I'm so glad you had Tumani Kamara number 1. I wanted to do it so bad. Like, people just need to wake up to what this guy is. Let's start the discussion with Tumani. You've got him at number 1. Like, tell the people about this guy, man.
I think he has about as good of argument as anybody. It's just legitimately being the best one-on-one defender in the entire league.
Yeah, 100%.
That's just my argument. I think he is the best one-on-one. If the Martians had the Def B pointed at Earth, it said, Sean, choose your best challenger to get one stop in a one-on-one perimeter scenario. I'm taking Tumani Kamara, and I'm living with the results.
Yeah,
that's totally just fair. Honestly me just picking that. That's how I'm picking my hair, because I think some of the other guys might provide more defensively than what Tumani Kamara does. Specific, whether it's the activity away from the ball, the defensive rebounding, the backline rim protection. I think both Asar and Amen in one aspect or the other might provide more than what Tumani does. But I just think the fact that Tumani is literally going to guard, he has, I think, the highest matchup difficulty out of any wing stopper or any point of attack or just on ball defensive player in the league. I just have him one because I think he's the best one-on-one defender in the entire league.
It's fair. He's big, he's lengthy, he's really quick, he teleports through screens. He also is in the 99th percentile in forced turnovers per 75. He forced 3 turnovers per 75, which is like deflections and steals. And charges draws a lot of charges. That's like an underrated thing with him too. So you do get some rim protection through that, but also the verticality. Like, I'll specifically point to, remember when Paolo Banchero tried to dunk on him, and it was like a Kembe Mutombo type of rejection from Tumani Kamara. He has a lot of chase down blocks. Like, you get legitimate rim protection from him. You get this ridiculous. He's basically close to a flawless defender. And for that reason, like, I think Tumani might be the most versatile defender in the league right now. I actually don't know why I don't have him. Like I said, I don't know why I don't have him number 1. I couldn't even counter you having him number 1. He does literally everything. I don't know if you knew this, but over the last 41 games of the season, Portland was the number 1 defense in the league, in the entire league. And that's like, obviously you got Donovan Clingan. Matisse Thybulle got healthy and he's awesome. But that is Tumani Kamara being like, hey, I'm going to do all of the roles at once. I'm going to have a super high motor. I'm going to play 35 minutes a game. And I'm just going to be the best defender in the league for this stretch. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Tumani Kamara is absolutely absurd. I think the only reason I lean the Thompson twins above him is outlier athletic tools. I think that was kind of my separator. I think, like you talked about how your separator was kind of like, these are the guys I'd choose to be, this is the guy I'd choose to be the best one-on-one defender. I'm kind of like just going, okay, when we get deeper into the playoffs, you can always, like, no matter what the scheme is, no matter what an offense an offense is trying to do to make you uninvolved. We always reference the 2023 Lakers Warriors series, and how the entire Warriors offense was built around keeping Anthony Davis out of the action. And I do think when you have a generational athlete like the Thompson twins, they're so quick, they're so just all over the court. The way they move isn't normal. And it's like, no matter what an offense tried to do to pull them away, they're always going to be able to get where they need to be to make an impact because they are just like generational athletes. The quick twitch, the first step, the full just head of steam speed. They're like two of the fastest players in the league. Then they both have like 45-inch verticals. They can get up like a big. I think that's why I ultimately had Kamara down. It's like, I'm just going to, if it comes down to the fact that like we've got to split hairs, I'm going to go with the generational tool. And I do think those are just two generational athletes.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fair.
I think, and just to talk about the Thompson twins real quick, if you're not familiar, like I said, freak athletes, they're both used as primary point of attack guys. They're going to navigate. I actually think Kamara's a noticeably better screen navigator than both of them. Like just much better at like staying glued to shooters or ball handlers over the screen and getting on the hip. I think Asar and Amen are better at containing dribble drive and isolation because of their agility. Kamara's a little bit stronger, probably better at absorbing contact, but then those guys are just like freakier athletes, so they can probably get different types of contests that Kamara can't get to. Both can play on the back line, both can jump lanes, both are active behind the play, both have super high motors, both are monster rebounders at their position. And the only distinction I made between Amen and Asar, it came down to two things. It was one, and we talked about this off camera, if you got to split hairs, Amen is just on the floor for like 10 or 12 more minutes a game guaranteed because he's a better offensive player at this point. And maybe some of that is role. Like Houston allows him to have the ball a little bit more, but I do think he's just a better finisher, better passer at this point. The other thing is that Asar fouls a lot. Like Asar actually averages more fouls per game, even though he plays like 12 less minutes. So I do think if you're going to get nitpicky, that's probably where I draw the distinction. Like he's another guy who got into foul trouble a few times going up against Brunson in the playoffs. I think the argument for Asar would be probably a better rebounder, probably a better rim protector. But if I had to split, it'd be like the guy that's getting more minutes because he's not fouling and because he's more advanced offensively.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I honestly didn't even know how to differentiate the two. It was more so vibes.
Isn't it crazy though? Like how many people are so comfortable just like calling us Amen this like world class defender, but then never give the credit to Asar. Like
you don't think Asar's getting the credit?
Well, my mind immediately goes to the nerd sesh list where like they would have Amen, like one of them had like Amen 7th or 8th, and neither of them had Asar on the list. They both had Amen on their list. One of them had like 7th or 8th. Shout out to nerd sesh, by the way, great dudes. Both of them had Amen on their list. One of them had him like 7th or 8th. Neither of them had Asar. And my kind of mindset is like, if you have Amen, you have Asar. I don't get how you can have one like 7th or 8th. And I feel like that's a consistent thing I see on Twitter and stuff where it's like Amen gets a lot of credit for like being the player he is. And I don't think Asar's that far off. If he even is far off at all defensively, he might even be better. I do think it's a little bit, that part is a little bit interesting to me.
Tyler Brin rant, hour into the pod.
A little bit. Shout out to Star Thompson, man. I'm surprised we were able to wrap this up in an hour. I feel like
I know.
Like this is good, man. We're getting better. We're getting
guards
better.
list was almost 2, wasn't it?
Yeah. I wonder what it is that made that so long. Interesting. Maybe it's because we're getting back into it and we just weren't in like the yap. Like we were fully yap by then. Like we were pumping out 2-hour episodes weekly, so we were just ready to yap all the time. Let's go ahead and recap our lists, though, before we get out of here. I had 10 Dylan Brooks, 9 Aaron Nesmith, 8 Jimmy Butler, 7 Jayson Tatum, 6 Jaden McDaniels, 5 Jalen Williams, 4 OG Anunoby, 3 Tumani Kamara, 2 Asar Thompson, and 1 Amen Thompson.
So I had 10 Tari Eason, 9 Jimmy Butler, 8 Aaron Nesmith, 7 Keegan Murray, #redemption, 6 Jaden McDaniels, 5 OG Anunoby, 4 Jalen Williams, 3 Asar Thompson, 2 Amen Thompson, and 1 Tumani Kamara.
shout out to everyone who made it this far in the list. Let us know down in the comments what your top 10 defensive wings would look like, and give us your predictions for what our top 10 defensive bigs are going to look like, because I think that'll be an interesting one as well. That'll probably be a little bit more statistical heavy, because there are kind of things you can point to with bigs, like rim protection stuff and impact on the team, because they do so much. But yeah, man, let us know what you think of our top 10 defensive wings. If you're on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, turn the notifications on, all that good stuff. Follow Sean on YouTube at the Sports Headline Show or the Los Angeles Lakers Network, and on Twitter at Sean_DAVI, Instagram Sean_Davis23. I'm surprised I remembered that after 2.5 weeks or whatever it's been. Follow me on YouTube at Hoop Venue on all platforms, of course. Tyler Britton as well for my personal social media accounts. Make sure to leave a 5-star review if you're on Apple and Spotify. That is very much appreciated. And we will catch you guys next time with episode number 61, our top 10 defensive bigs.